We are on page 346 and we have to read from thus too if we see only the out aspect of self. So we have to read from there. What Sridhar has said earlier is that even spiritual experience for a long time, even before we go to this supramental level, there are so many planes and there are so many different types of, the divine is infinite, so we have different types of experiences of the divine. So you must have all. Even one single experience is so satisfying that you think that that's a ultimate, but it is not true. That's what Sridhar is pointing out. He says you must have all aspects and you must see through them. So quickly, I'll read out the summary of the previous para that we have read, and then we will read today what we have to read today. Okay, so the eighth paragraph, this is what he says. The Supreme Consciousness need not and will not act according to our limited mental views and opinions. Okay? The divine is infinite and so he will act in a different way altogether. The logic of the infinite. Okay? Mental constructions are artificial, ethical, and not in conformity with that supreme will. What seems to us, what seems to us abhorrent, reprehensible, unacceptable is not so for the supreme will. Man imposes his own partial views on everything, field, and finds contradictions, objections, and unacceptable occurrences. Okay. Mind's fractions do not harmonize with the spirit's integers. And he gives the example of the story of the blind man and the elephant, and it illustrates his point very well. Each one is seeing only one aspect of the elephant and concluding that that is the elephant is this, elephant is this, elephant is that. Elephant is a rope, elephant is a pillar, the elephant is a wall, things like that. Elephant is a fan. so, so he's saying the infinite reality must include the essence of everything and yet the totality also. It must know the finite as well as the infinite. It must know the whole, but it must also it must also see the parts. To see only one of these and ignore the others is ignorance. To see the essence only and not the parts is an penultimate knowledge, not the ultimate, not the integral truth. Man must know spirit as well as matter. He must know God's day as well as his night. Okay? Then that's what he's saying in the previous verse. So now we can read. Thus too. So
Shall I read?
Yes, read. Thus too.
We see only the aspect of self. We may concentrate on its static silence and miss the dynamic truth of the infinite. If we see only the Ishvara, we may seize the dynamic truth but miss the eternal status and infinite silence. Become aware of only dynamic being, dynamic consciousness, dynamic delight of being, but miss the pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss of being. If we concentrate on Purusha Prakriti alone, we may see only the dichotomy of soul and nature, spirit and matter, and miss their unity. In considering the action of the infinite, we have to avoid the error of the disciple who thought of himself as the Brahman, refused to obey the warning of the elephant driver to budge from the narrow path, and was taken up by the elephant's trunk and removed out of the way. You are no doubt the Brahman, said the master of his bewildered disciple. But why did you not obey the driver Brahman and get out of the path of the elephant Brahman? We must not commit the mistake of emphasizing one side of the truth and concluding from it, or acting upon it to the exclusion of other sides. In fact, the realization I am that is true. We cannot safely proceed on it unless we realize also that all is that our self existence is a fact. We must also be aware of other self, of the same self in the other being, and that of that which exceeds both itself and others. The infinite is one in a multiplicity, and its action is only seizable by supreme reason which regards all and acts as a one awareness that observes itself in difference and respects its own differences, so that each thing and each being has its form of essential being and its form of dynamic nature, Swarupa, Swadharma, and all are respected in the total working. The knowledge and action of the infinite is the one in unbound variability. We, from the point of view of the infinite truth, equally an error to insist either on a sameness of action in all circumstances or on a diversity of action without any unifying truth and harmony behind the diversity. In our own principle of conduct, if we sought to act in this greater truth, it would be equally an error to insist on ourself alone or to insist on other selves alone. It is the self of all on which we have to found a unity of action and a total infinitely plastic yet harmonious diversity of action. For that is the nature of the working of the infinite.
Again, we have come across those two words, Swarupa and Swadharma. I have not forgotten. I am working on it. Okay, I am discovering more and more things. I am writing it out, and finally, I will write it out and send it to all of you. Okay, so it's a very interesting question, Swadharma and Swarupa. Now, what is he saying? We'll do first one thing. We'll read out this, the summary of what he's saying. Essentially, he's saying the same thing again in different words. Okay? He's saying that the divine is infinite and you can't limit him to only one aspect. But that one aspect is so satisfying that we always make that mistake that, oh, I have got the divine now. Wonderful, love. But knowledge may not be there. And if you get knowledge, you will say, oh, I have got, I understand so many things now, but love may not be there. So there are all these things he's saying that you have to know each aspect of the divine. You must know him in the dynamism of the world and you must know him in the static condition of the world. That which is permanent and not moving at all, immutable and mutable, personal and impersonal. This is all even the spiritual people who go to the self, okay, they make this mistake. They keep on insisting that there is no God. There is no personal God. There is only states of consciousness. So that's what Surendra is warning you about. Now I'll read out the summary. Okay. Number one, if we experience only self, we may miss the dynamic aspect of the infinite. The self is the immutable, silent, infinite, featureless. Okay. Remember, you can't describe it in any way. So it is, if you see the static condition of the divine, then you don't see the dynamic condition of the divine. But the divine is there in the physical world also. If you are seeing only the self, you will see the physical world as unreal. Okay. But that is only one aspect of the truth. That's what Swami is saying. Second, if we see only Ishvara, we may miss the silence and the immutability of the infinite. If you see the divine in the cosmos, okay, and the personal aspect of the divine, you may miss the silence. He is also static. Okay, he is perfect and static, immutable. Doesn't need to change. That also aspect is there. So that you may miss. Third, okay, if we focus only on the Purusha Prakriti experience, we shall see the independence. We shall see we shall see the independence and separation of the two. Okay. But we may miss the unity of spirit and matter. So, the Purusha Prakriti experience is usually found on the spiritual planes of consciousness. But they are two separate things. Even in the physical world, you see only Prakriti, but you don't see Purusha if you are in ignorance. But if you go to the spiritual levels of consciousness, you see Shakti, you see the physical world in action, movement, energy, constant mutability. But you also see the spirit. Okay? You also see the divine is there moving. But they don't seem to have anything in common. That's the Purusha Prakriti experience, which is elaborated extensively in the Sankhya philosophy. Okay? That's the third one. Then the story of the elephant driver and the guru illustrates this point very well. Okay? So, I am that. Soham asmi. That is from the Upanishads. Or Tat Tvamasi. Okay. And also the third one, Sarvam Khalu Vidam Brahman. Everything is the Brahman. So these three, you have to see all of them. I am that is true, but so is the truth that all others also are that. Okay, not only you, but others also are that. The infinite is one on the heights, but becomes the many on the lesser planes. Each of the many expressing one aspect, one possibility of the infinite manifestation, Swabhava and Swadharma, Swarupa. Swarupa and Swabhava, Swarupa, the the Rupa, but psychological Rupa, because at the highest level, there is no Rupa, no? Formlessness is there. Okay, then I go to the next one. Insistence on the same action for all is an error, but equally, insistence only on the others, excluding oneself, is also an error. Okay? When we act from the supreme consciousness, we shall avoid that error of seeing only oneself or the other error of seeing only the others. We shall act. I'll give you an example of the seeing only the others. It's a very interesting thing. It is there in the, when we are doing the Swabhava and Swadharma, there is a very famous disciple of Ramakrishna. His name was Nag Mahasaya. So it's a very interesting example because he illustrates the point of Swabhava and Swadharma. We'll come to that. I'll come to that when I finish the writing the whole thing out. Okay. So that's what he's saying. We shall act in the total action. We should act in the total action of all the souls. Not only yourself, but everybody else. That's what he's saying. Now, the idea is basically quite simple. Know the divine in all the aspects. So, if it is clear enough and you would like to go to the next para, we will do that. But if you want to go through each one, I think the basic point we have grasped very easily, na? That you must not know the divine only in one aspect. You must know him in all the aspects. So decide. If you want to go through the sentences for language sake, we'll do that. But if you feel that...
Actually, last time we've already done this paragraph.
Exactly. I realized that when we were doing it because that elephant image was there. I remember. So let's go on to the next. Okay. If we look from this viewpoint, Yasmin, you will read?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Rangada, but I have a little doubt here.
Yeah.
That here it is telling that you are no doubt the Brahman, said
Yes.
the master to the bewildered
Yes.
disciple. But why did you not obey the driver Brahman and get out of the path of the elephant Brahman?
Yes.
This
So,
concept I have not yet understood. What exactly Sri Aurobindo wanted to tell in this line?
that's what he has told you, that you must think that you are the divine. Okay. But you must also know that the divine is also others. Okay. I have a brother, sister, mother, father, I have strangers, I have enemies, all are divine. So even the elephant is divine. Don't think of yourself only as a divine. He is concentrating only on that one aspect of Soham Asmi, Saha Aham Asmi. Okay, I am that. So he is concentrating only on that. But what about Tattvamasi? You also are that. Okay, and Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahman. So you have to concentrate on all the three aspects. That's what Shraddha is saying. Clear now?
Okay.
Yeah, you must not think that only you are the divine or the divine is only straight or the divine is only immutable. He is everything. He is everything. That's Advaita philosophy.
Like in Gujarati, we say, Sarva Jeev Se Siddha Sam.
Yes. Okay. So, Yasmin, if
we look from this viewpoint of a larger, more plastic reason, taking account of the logic of the infinite, at the difficulties which meet our intelligence when it tries to conceive the absolute and omnipresent reality, we shall see that the whole difficulty is verbal and conceptual and not real. Our intelligence looks at its concept of the absolute and sees that it must be indeterminable, and at the same time, it sees a world of determinations which emanates from the absolute and exists in it. For it can emanate from nowhere else and can exist nowhere else. It is further baffled by the affirmation, also hardly disputable on the premises that all these determinates are nothing else than this very indeterminable absolute. But the contradiction disappears when we understand that the indeterminability is not in its true sense negative, not an imposition of incapacity on the infinite, but positive, a freedom within itself from limitation by its own determinations, and necessarily a freedom from all external determination by anything not itself. Since there is no real possibility of such a non self coming into existence, the infinite is illimitably free, free to determine itself infinitely, free from all restraining effect of its own creations. In fact, the infinite does not create. It manifests what is in itself, in its own essence of reality. It is itself that essence of all reality. All realities are powers of that one reality. The absolute neither creates nor is created. In the current sense of making or being made, we can speak of creation only in the sense of the being becoming in form and movement what it already is in substance and status. Yet we have to emphasize its indeterminability in that special and positive sense, not as a negation, but as an indispensable condition for its free infinite self-determination, because without that the reality would be a fixed eternal determinate, or else an indeterminate, fixed and bound to a sum of possibilities of determination inherent within it. Its freedom from all limitation, from any binding by its own creation, cannot be itself turned into a limitation, an absolute incapacity, a denial of all freedom of self determination. It is this that would be a contradiction. It would be an attempt to define and limit by negation the infinite and illimitable into the central fact of the two sides of the nature of the absolute, the essential and self creative or dynamic. No real contradiction enters. It's only a pure, infinite essence that can formulate itself in infinite ways. One statement is complementary to the other. There is no mutual cancellation, no incompatibility. It is only the dual statement of a single inescapable fact by human reason in human language.
So the contradictions that we see here in the physical world, okay, opposites, are not really opposites. That's what he's saying. Okay? At the higher level, you see that they are not opposites. Our mind is limited, and therefore we can't grasp the totality and the reality in its totality. We can't see. So I'll read out to you the summary of what he's saying here. Again, it's basically the same idea. Okay? When we look closely at the problem of these contradictions, okay, the divine is personal, the divine is impersonal, and when you have the experiences, you go on insisting the divine is only impersonal, he is not personal. That's a mistake. He is only a person, he is not impersonal. That's a mistake again. Okay? That's what Swami is pointing out. When we look closely at the problem of these contradictions, we see that it is merely verbal. It's a question of language. Okay? There is no contradiction. The infinite of the absolute creates the multitudinous forms of the universe, even while remaining itself free from all its own determinations. While it does not change, it produces all the changes in the physical world because it is inexhaustible. Okay? It remains it remains static, and when it is creating out of its own substance, you would feel that there is a loss of substance because it is creating something outside. But no, it is not like that because it is infinite. It goes on creating but never again exhausts itself. Like Akshay Patra. You have heard of that, no? It never becomes empty. Never. Actually, that's what he's pointing out. In fact, if you remember that famous mantra of the uh, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Purnamada Purnamidam, okay? Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Take the whole infinite out of the infinite, the remainder is the infinite. That's what he's saying. So there is no contradiction. At our level, there is a contradiction, but there is no contradiction at the higher level. The absolute creates multitudinous forms of the universe, even while maintaining itself free from all own determinations. Determinations, features. Itself being featureless, it creates all the features. The indeterminability, in other words, the you cannot ascribe characteristics to it and say the divine is only this. That's the indeterminability. We have a tendency to say the divine is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. But then you are limiting him. He can be the opposite. That's what Srinath is pointing out. Okay? The indeterminability of the absolute does not mean that it is incapable of determining itself into forms. It can. If it were so, it would not be the absolute. That's what. So the absolute is capable of becoming also the relative. That's what he's saying. In fact, that fits perfectly with the Advaita philosophy. Everything, right down from the lowest, smallest atom, right up to the infinite divine, everything is a divine. Quite simple, nothing very complicated. We can go on to the next para. No? The same conciliation occurs everywhere. Unless you have some problem with the language. If you have a problem with the language, we'll see. But otherwise, it is very straightforward. So tell me, shall we read the next one? I feel we can, but you have to tell me. But if you want to go through for the language sake, we'll do that. No problem.
Will I read?
Yes, please do that. The same conciliation occurs everywhere.
The same conciliation occurs everywhere when we look with a straight and accurate look on the truth of the reality. In our experience of it, we become aware of an infinite essentially free from all limitation by qualities, properties, features. On the other hand, we are aware of an infinite teeming with innumerable qualities, properties, features. Here again, the statement of illimitable freedom is positive, not negative. It does not negate what we see, but on the contrary, provides the indispensable condition for it. It makes possible a free and infinite self-expression in quality and feature. A quality is the character of a power of conscious being, or we may say that the consciousness of being expressing what is in it makes the power it brings out recognizable by a native stamp on it, which we call quality or character. Courage as a quality is such a power of being. It is a certain character of my consciousness expressing a formulated force of my being, bringing out or creating a definite kind of force of my nature in action. So too the power of a drug to cure is its property, a special force of being native to the herb or mineral from which it is produced. And this specialty is determined by the real idea concealed in the involved consciousness which dwells in the plant or mineral. The idea brings out in it what was there at the root of its manifestation and has now come out thus empowered as the force of its being. All qualities, properties, features are such powers of conscious being, thus put forth from itself by the Absolute. It has everything within it. It has the free power to put all forth. Yet, we cannot define the Absolute as a quality of courage or a power of healing. We cannot even say that these are the characteristic feature of the absolute, nor can you nor can you make up a sum of qualities and say that is the absolute. But neither can you speak of the absolute as a pure blank incapable of manifesting these things. On the contrary, all capacity is there. The powers of all qualities and characters are there inherent within it. The mind is in a difficulty because it has to say the absolute or the infinite is none of these things. These things are not the absolute or infinite. And at the same time, it has to say the absolute is all these things. They are not something else than that, for that is the sole existence and the all existence. Here it is evident that it is an undue, fi- undue finiteness of thought conception and verbal expression which creates the difficulty. But there is in reality none, for it would be evidently absurd to say that the absolute is courage or curing power, or to say that courage and curing power are the absolute. But it would be equally absurd to deny the capacity of the absolute to put forth courage or curing power as a self-expression in its manifestation. When the logic of the finite fails us, we have to see with a direct and unbound vision what is behind in the logic of the infinite. We can then realize that the infinite is infinite in quality, feature, power, but that no sum of qualities, features, powers can describe the infinite.
Okay, so again the same idea, he is expanding on the idea. So you can't say that he has taken two examples. No? He has taken a psychological characteristic and a physical characteristics. The power of a herb to heal, okay, and the courage of a man. Okay, these are the qualities. That's very interesting because it is linked very much to the swabhava. Okay, when everything in the the creation is being made. Okay, each thing is assigned its role. This will be your characteristic, and this is what you have to do in the physical world. And that becomes it has to, there is a law that you have to do. If you don't do that, then you don't get the full benefit of your own nature. You have to follow your own nature, Swabhava. That's basically what Shraddha is saying. So, let's, again I'll read out to you what he's saying, and if you want, we'll go into the details. This conciliation between what and what? The absolute and the relative, okay? The personal and the impersonal, the immutable and the mutable, okay? The finite and the infinite. This conciliation is to be seen and applied at all levels. Saguna and Nirguna. Saguna with qualities, Nirguna without qualities. Okay? Absolutely blank, without any qualities. Are complementaries, not contraries. That's basically the gist of what he's saying in this paragraph. Then, quality, feature, characteristic are powers of the consciousness. Courage, benevolence are powers, features of the consciousness. Similarly, the curative power of a herb, a drug, is a feature, a quality of the plant. And these features are implicit in the real idea. Okay, so what is the real idea? I refer you back to all the real ideas are starting in the supermind. Okay, that's I like to put it this way, I like to put it as a blueprint. Okay, that's the first conception of what you want to produce. So everything that is created in the physical world has an origin, and that origin is a blueprint. And where is it? It's in the supermind. That is where the swabhava is. The swabhava is nothing but the real idea. You will have courage, okay? You will have charity. You will be kindness, okay? You will be force. These are all the things that are done, and then they are sent into the world to manifest those powers. It becomes the swadharma. They have to follow the principle of what has been assigned to you. If everybody does what is assigned to him, then there is no confusion. But if everybody starts doing things which are not assigned to him, then it becomes a problem. We'll discuss that afterwards in the question of Svabhava and Swadharma. It's a very interesting question. So, similarly, the curative power of a herb, a drug, is a feature, a quality of the plant. And these features are implicit in the real idea that resides where? In the nirguna. Okay? That which is featureless, it is there in the indeterminable. It is there, like the seed. The seed, if you open, you will see nothing. You can't see any leaves, fruits, flowers, but they are all there at the chromosome level. Okay, so and these features are implicit in the real idea that resides in the nirguna. All qualities are inherent in the absolute. Everything that you can think of, starting point is the absolute. Absolute, remember using philosophical language, supermind. Okay, it's all there in the supermind. All qualities are inherent in the absolute, but they do not define or determine the absolute, which is far greater than the quality or even a total sum of qualities. You can't say that the absolute is this quality, this quality, this quality, this quality. Okay, there is no. Even in the physical world, okay, this is the. I find this very interesting. In Jainism, you have this concept. Okay, you can never describe anything, even in the physical world, fully. So you can never describe it fully. So take anything, for instance, take a pencil. Okay, you can say it is made of wood, it has got this color, it's got lead inside, it has got this much weight, this much form. Okay, you can say all these things. Have you exhausted it? No. You have to go to again start saying what it is not. Otherwise, the description is not complete. So finally, in the everything in the physical world ends up with maybe, maybe not. Syadva, na syadva. Okay. And that's very interesting because that's exactly what you experience when you go to the self. You see the physical world as unreal. Okay. You can't determine it in any way. Okay. So that's what he's saying in this one. Okay. Then the absolute is not courage or curative power, but nor are courage and cure the absolute. When finite mental logic fails us, we must go beyond the logic to the logic of the infinite. The absolute is not courage or curative power, but is much, much more than the sum of the two. That's basically what he's saying. It's impossible in the mind to completely describe the absolute. It is indescribable, indeterminable. But that doesn't mean to say that it is only negative. No. It has got all the possibilities of manifesting everything that it wants to. That's what Sir is saying. So we are at 8:20, 22 actually. So we have about 15 minutes. I think we can read one more para. The same idea is being given in many different ways and different so, words.
I have a query, please.
So go ahead.
I'm a little confused between
Yes.
the transcendent and the supermind.
Okay.
What are the similarities, dissimilarities? Is it one?
Okay. The transcendent, you can think of it as that which is above the universe. Okay. In other words, you can think of it as a nirguna. There is nothing of the universe in it. In other words, it is absolutely featureless. Okay. So that much is clear. Now, you need not go to the transcendent to experience the transcendent. Even when you are at the higher mind level, you can experience the transcendent. Okay, that's an important point. So, when you are at the higher mind level, you can have the experience of the transcendent. When you are at the not in your ordinary mind, you can't. Okay, you have to go to the spiritual place of consciousness. Then you go to the illumined mind, you can have the experience of the transcendent. You go to the intuitive mind, also possible. You go to the over mind, also possible. But the moment you go into the super mind, you are both in the transcendent and the cosmic and the individual. Okay. It sounds funny because the transcendent is outside the universe. Okay? But as I said, you can experience it not in its full glory. In its full glory, that's what the Buddhists are saying. Get rid of all these things and merge into the infinite and don't come back. That's your home. So go back to where you came from. That's actually the transcendent. But the transcendent can be experienced, okay, in the lower planes of consciousness. That's what. So when you go to the higher mind level, okay, you can experience the transcendent, and if you experience the transcendent, the world is unreal to you. Okay, it's only images. This much is clear. But when you go to the higher mind, you need not see the physical world as unreal. You may have the cosmic consciousness. And when you have the cosmic consciousness, you see the physical world as real. There are various possibilities. Okay? Don't think that when you go to the self, only one experience is possible. Okay? Everybody need not have the cosmic consciousness. But if you have the cosmic consciousness, you are not going to reject the physical world. It is real. But if you experience the transcendent in the higher mind, then you will feel that the world is unreal. And you will have a tendency to reject it. Okay. I think I told you earlier also once that Sri Aurobindo saw the physical world as unreal. But he decided not to jump to conclusions. He said, I will wait. I can't believe that the ultimate truth is a blank. How can I believe that? Okay. He could not swallow that. So he said, there must be something else. I'll wait. Okay. That's it.
That means the supermind is the boss and the king above all of them.
Yes, absolutely. But even above the supermind, there is the Satchidananda is still there. That nobody has experienced as yet. And if you go higher than that, okay, you can't come back to give a report. So the maximum is even in the Vedas and even in those, okay, you go right up to the supermind. Some indication of that he can give you. He has told you very clearly in the chapters in Life Divine that not easy to understand the supermind. But with a little bit of strain and a little bit of flexibility of language, we will try and understand what it is. But above the supermind, nothing. As yet, it is unexplored territory. But there is certainly territory up there also. The divine can't be limited only to one level. This also he has discussed in the Life Divine. The question arises, can there be something above the supermind? And Sri Aurobindo says, yes, there are, and the evolution will continue. But basically, supermind is a turning point. Okay? Once you have there, the essence of the divine is understood. And there is an elaboration perhaps in the higher planes, but the supermind is in that sense all the aspects of the divine you can experience there. So the transcendent is a relative term if you want. Okay. Transcend. The word exactly means that you feel you are outside the universe. You feel yourself to be outside your body, mind, life. You are outside the universe. That's a transcendent. But that doesn't mean to say that geographically you are at the highest level. No. You can experience it at the lower levels. Okay? So, what is we have 8:28. We have got 7 minutes. What can we do? Can we read one more? Or shall we stop here today? Tell me. All of you. We have had enough? Yeah, sometimes you feel a sore feet. More than this, I'll not be able to digest. You may feel like that.
Ranga,
Yes.
Little curiosity that in Gold also we have a painting of Mother, no, that she has gone out of the earth and her robe covers the entire earth. So that was a transcendent type of thing which she experienced.
She has definitely experienced, but I didn't understand the context what you are saying. What was that?
Whenever at today, as you are telling, no, the transcendent is going beyond the earth or going beyond a level. So mother
Yes.
has definitely experienced that feeling, no, because then only she has seen in her dream that she's covering the entire world.
Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. It is not something so fantastic because even ordinary yogis also, many yogis also have experienced that, the transcendent. The transcendent, the
In
cosmic.
mother's prayers and meditation, I
Yes.
think it was recent 17th or 18th of January, where
Okay.
she describes how she leaves her body and then, she goes to higher planes. And then this was a prayer of 1915, because Sri Aurobindo writes a letter back to her saying that what you have experienced is written in the Vedas. This is a prayer of 1915. I
Okay.
just read it 2 to 3 days ago.
Yeah. So that is, must be the transcendent. Okay. Yeah. Okay then. I think we can stop here today. But we have to make a note of what we have to read next time. Huh? So,
We see the absolute, the self, the divine, the
that's
spirit.
right. Yeah. So, Life Divine, PP 350. And we see.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
Au revoir, everybody.